everybody, welcome back to the channel. I'm Jess with The Crazy Place. Today's video is especially for some of my students that are at home. We have not had school since mid-March, and the teachers have posted videos each day, and I wanted to post a video on how to make bath fizzies. This could be a fun activity for your student or your child, but it doesn't just have to be an activity. We can add in a science lesson with it. We'll get to that a little bit later on. For right now, I want to show you what I have in front of me, what you will need to make the bath fizzies, and then we'll get started. For the dry ingredients, you will need citric acid. I have a large bag of this. I use it for a couple different things. Epsom salts, cornstarch, baking soda, and you will need an oil of some sort. You can use olive oil, almond oil, some sort of carrier oil. I am going to use coconut oil. If you don't have fractionated coconut oil, you can use regular coconut oil, just melt it down to a liquid stage. You will also need a few tablespoons of water. I've got more than enough here, but I'm going to be making a couple different ones. A 1/4 of a cup measuring cup and a 1/2 cup measuring cup. A teaspoon, and a mold of some sort. I have the round sphere mold for the bath fizzies. You can also use muffin tins or silicone molds, really anything that will keep shape for a little bit. So you don't specifically have to have these. Muffin tins will work just fine because I'm sure most everybody has those. You will also need a couple of mixing bowls. I use glass, so I will have one for my dry ingredients, and I will have one for the liquid ingredients, and a whisk. For the optional ingredients you can add to your bath fizzies: dried herbs or flowers. Here I have some peppermint flakes, peppermint leaves, lavender buds, and I also am trying rose petals. I will also be adding essential oils to my bath fizzies. Once again, completely optional. I'm going to add lavender to the lavender bud one, eucalyptus and peppermint to the peppermint flakes, and I will be adding jasmine to the rose petals. The last optional ingredient you could add to your bath fizzy is coloring. We have several colors here we use when we make soap. If you would like to have some color to your bath fizzy, you can use these. You just want to make sure that it's water soluble. Now that we went through everything, let's get to making some bath fizzies. To begin, we'll want to start mixing our dry ingredients. You will want to use 1/2 cup of baking soda. The baking soda in the recipe is to calm irritated skin. Next, you will add a 1/4 of a cup of cornstarch. The reason we add cornstarch is that it slows the reaction of the bath fizzy. Next, you will need a 1/4 of a cup of citric acid. And finally, you will need a 1/4 of a cup of Epsom salt. The Epsom salt in the recipe soothes achy muscles, relieves stress, and helps detox the body. Once the dry ingredients are fully incorporated, then you can add your herbs. I usually add 4 teaspoons of herbs per batch of bath fizzies. So here I'm using 4 teaspoons of lavender buds. You will do this for each different batch of bath fizzies that you make. For the wet ingredients, I start with 2 teaspoons of water. This acts as a binder for the bath fizzies. I will also be adding 2 teaspoons of coconut oil. The coconut oil is to hydrate the skin and also helps relieve inflammation you may have. This is also where you would add your essential oils, and for one batch I use 1 teaspoon of essential oil of your choice. If you want to combine different essential oils into one batch, just make sure that the total amount is 1 teaspoon. And lastly, you'll add the coloring if you choose to do so. The more drops you add in, the deeper of a color you will have for your bath fizzy. That is complete preference. We have our combined dry ingredients, including the lavender buds. We also have our wet ingredients. The key to making the bath fizzies is that you want the fizzing chemical reaction to occur in the bathtub. So we want to try to not let the reaction occur as we are adding the liquid to the dry. We're going to add it very slowly, stirring the whole time to make sure it's incorporated. I'm going to bring you in a little bit closer so you can see as I'm pouring it in how we're combining it, and I'll try to show you the best I can the texture that it is. You want the consistency to be moist but not completely wet, but you also don't want a powdery mixture. It's hard to explain the right mixture that we need. Think of the feel of the kinetic sand. It's not wet, but it's also not completely dry. We may or may not use all of this liquid. We have our bath fizzy mixture here. As you'll notice, I did not use all of the liquid. I typically don't, but I would rather have more made than not enough, because you never know, as we go through here, we may need to add a little bit more liquid if I notice that the molds aren't holding. So don't get rid of this quite yet. We'll just set it to the side. I have a towel in front of me here. We will need this for the next part and your mold. But you're going to take your mold, and I fill up one side of the mold. Get a little bit more in there. Then I will fill up the other half of the mold. Press it against the side. And you notice that they aren't level. I've got some overage. That's fine. Once we smoosh this together, we will have some come out of the sides, around the seam. 2 halves over your bowl. Work them together. As you see, we've got mixture coming out the sides, and that is just fine. Give it a good squeeze. And the mold is put together. We're gonna let this rest for a couple minutes, then we'll come back and take it apart. You do not want to leave it in the mold for an extended period of time, as the compression will cause a little bit of reaction and it will start coming out of the sides, kind of exploding around the seam. Only leave this in here for a couple minutes. I usually make a couple. I'll stop, open up some of the molds, and just repeat. Okay, here's that science lesson I told you we were going to have for the day. The reason we have the fizzing in the bath fizzies is because it is a chemical reaction between the citric acid and the baking soda. It creates carbon dioxide. This is very similar to when you add vinegar to baking soda. Vinegar is an acid. It reacts with the baking soda, creating fizz. Now we'll go ahead and start taking the molds apart. This can be kind of tricky. You need to have some patience with this. If it comes apart, doesn't hold, it's fine. We will just put it back in the bowl, remold it. Sometimes they work better than other times, but this is the most meticulous part, I feel like, of this whole process. We'll see how these come apart. The trick to pulling these apart is just to be very gentle. I usually hold the bottom part right below the rim, and I will lift the top off. Once it's off, I will flip it over, gently pull the other half of the sphere apart. Sometimes they will act a little stuck. Just give it a very gentle wiggle, and they usually will pop right off. For the muffin tin, you'll just flip it over and let the fizzy fall out on your hand. Okay, we've got all of the bath fizzies made. We've got the lavender, the eucalyptus peppermint, and the jasmine rose. Now we will want to let these set on the towel overnight. If you use a silicone mold, you will want to leave the mixture in the silicone mold overnight, and then you can pop it out tomorrow. The sphere and the muffin tin fizzies, you can go ahead and pop those out after just a couple of minutes. Once these sit overnight, you can use them right away, or when you want a nice, relaxing bath. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial on how to make bath fizzies. I know I can't see you, but I would love to hear from you. Make sure to leave a comment below if you try this activity. Let me know if you added any scents to yours or any colors. I would love to hear what combinations you come up with. I just made a couple of my favorites, but I am always up for trying new scents. Also, I would love to hear what you're doing on your break at home during these times. What activities have you done? What have you made? Write to me down below. I will make sure to respond and reply, as that is our way of communicating these days. If you like videos like this, make sure to hit the subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up, share it with family and friends who you think might be interested in making these. And until next time, happy fizzing!